and violence. Lots of it.
I have an opportunity here to do something special.
We got Bruce, Dad. Bad things, Dad.
Bad things, man.
Bruce wanted to be the all-time sack leader from the very beginning.
Think of like LeBron James as a basketball player playing football and playing defensive end.
Offensive linemen, they don't want to be paired up against him. What they were afraid of was getting made to look stupid.
Oh, baby! Oh, baby!
Hammer time. Want that defensive player of the year now.
That statement needed to be made.
I love Bruce. I mean, I love him like a brother.
An icon, leader of men.
He's the greatest ever played.
Bruce Smith has got him. He's got the record.
The end game was to be this player that nobody would ever forget about.
Bruce Smith, The Football Life, coming up tonight, 10 o'clock on NFL Network. John Murphy, Steve Tasker here in our Orchard Park studio. And joining us on the line, the Hall of Famer himself, Bruce Smith. Bruce, happy Thanksgiving. Good to have you on the show with us here today.
John, happy Thanksgiving to you as well and all the fans in Buffalo. And happy Thanksgiving to my dear friend and greatest all-around special teams player that ever played the game, Steve Tasker.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. It's great to see you, man. Happy Thanksgiving to you and the family, Carmen, and also everybody. What was the funnest? This big program's coming on, and this is I'm surprised it took this long for them to do a Football Life on you, but because we find out a lot of stuff people in Western New York were never privy to. You know, you're beginning up in Virginia, you're growing up, and all the things that you went through. What was the funnest part for you in getting this program made?
Well, what an honor and a pleasure to have this documentary shot. I got to tell you, it was one of the most difficult times. The first day we had to shoot in Virginia Beach, I got a phone call at 5 a.m. in the morning that one of my dearest friends in the whole world had just gotten hit by a car and was killed in an accident. And that was the late, great, pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker.
Sweet Pea, yeah.
And I was heartbroken. I couldn't get myself together for quite some time heading into the shoot. And finally, I settled down for a short period of time, and we were able to start shooting the show. I got emotional during the show. We had to pause and stop, but I got to tell you, it was a very trying time for me to gather myself together as we commenced to shooting this shoot. But once we were able to get me settled down, everything just seemed to flow and come together.
Bruce Smith, the documentary, Bruce Smith, The Football Life, 10 o'clock tonight on NFL Network. Bruce, fans here in Buffalo feel like they know you, obviously, from your Hall of Fame career here, but what do you think they might not know about you that might come out as they watch this documentary tonight?
Well, it talks about my childhood and growing up and being bullied as a kid, not coming into my own until I actually started playing sports. The people that influenced me, my mother and father, and quite frankly, had I not listened to my father and his instilling in me never to quit in life at anything that I embark upon, this story would have never been told. And it's a good and a great learning lesson and learning tool for kids that are growing up, having to endure being bullied, having to go through adversity. So these are the things that I wanted to tell. And just imagine with this 19-year Hall of Fame career and all the accolades and awards, having to, or the NFL films having to jam in all of that into an hour-long special. It's somewhat of an injustice, but they did an outstanding job. There's so much more to be told, but I'm grateful and thankful that this documentary was shot.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much into this thing, and we're all asked like you gave me the little commercial right at the top of this thing where you said, it's about my special team stuff, and of course, when you get in the Hall of Fame, I was asked a lot of stuff then, and I always told people you're the best defensive end. Certainly best defensive player during your generation, and at times of her career, you were the best player at any position in the league. And one of the things that I found out during the making of this documentary is you had more tackles as a defensive lineman than anybody in the history of the league. I didn't, and they kind of research some of this stuff seems meaningless at the time and all that, but when you go back and look at it, it's like this is 100 years, and you played for. And I told people you were a good defensive end on first and second down too, because that's how you got to be the pass rusher, right? So I mean, so let me ask you now. You were known for being out there on three. You were a 3-down player. You made a lot of running. You made more running tackles in the run game than anybody in the history of the game. And you never really took credit for that because you also had, by the way, 200 sacks. So I want to ask you that. How old you were? We came out in the same year. You were drafted in 85. I was drafted in 85. Or maybe you were 84. I don't know. But how do you feel now? What do you live in Virginia Beach? Virginia has always been your home, and there you are.
Yeah, well, I feel like I played 100 years.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the 100-year anniversary. I feel like I played 100 years. And hey, I just finished rubbing some CBD on my joints just a few minutes ago.
There you go.
No, man, I can't complain. I had some of the best medical staff with Bud and Abe at the helm, and Dr. Wiseman, and I had the best orthopedic surgeons that were going. Dr. Richard Stedman out in Vail, Colorado, and Dr. Andrews in Birmingham, Alabama, along with Dr. Yoakum in California, who did my shoulder surgeries. So I got to tell you, they looked after my best interests and for life after football and longevity for my career. And they just did an outstanding job. And thank God for Marv and Bill Polian, understanding that in order for me to keep performing at a high level, I needed the best medical attention in terms of when I needed to have surgeries. And a lot of people don't know it. I spent just about half, if not more than half of my career having surgeries during the off season. And I was able to recover from that because I had such expert medical professionals that were attending to me, and Marv and Bill and Hall of Famer owner Ralph Wilson were very patient and allowed me to come back. And I didn't miss very much time, and I'm very grateful and thankful for that.
One of the messages that comes out of your football life, this documentary about your life, is, it was a roller coaster for you. I mean, you were suspended, you had injuries, you had surgeries half the time. And it really is, that really is the message. And you talked about the young, but you must speak to, as a Hall of Famer, you speak to groups all the time. And part of your message has to be, it's not about, sometimes there are bad consequences of things we do. Sometimes there are bumps in the road and challenges. But your response to them has to be one of a champion, and you did that in so many instances, and that's really the message of your life story here on NFL Network.
Yeah, it was a journey, Steve, and that journey is filled with some bumps in the road, some poor decisions, some hard lessons learned, and the smart ones understand and they grow from the mistakes that they've made, and they keep pressing on. And that's what I was able to do. Man, it was such a blessing to have all of you guys from Jim and relationship that I built with Jim, and his mother had a lot to do with that. From Darryl Talley being my roommate for 7 or 8 years on road trips, to Cornelius, to Thurman, to Andre, and I got to tell you, none of us would be where we are today had it not been for Marv Levy. Just a leader of men, And he taught us how not to only be successful on the football field, but how to be successful in life, in men with character and accountability and service to the community. And again, that's what I'm so grateful and thankful about.
Bruce Smith, our guest, he's going to be profiled in A Football Life on NFL Network tonight, 10 o'clock. Bruce, we got a big kick out of Steve telling us about the text chain that he has with all of you guys, your Hall of Famers, your Super Bowl Bills, and especially yesterday, as the Bills' victory became apparent, and Steve thinks there might have been some wine-aided takes coming over down the line.
Bruce, all I can say, Bruce, is that... listen, Bruce, all I can say is the last thing that Cornelius texted, I could not read.
Yeah, it made no sense whatsoever.
It made absolutely no sense. And I said there was a lot of scar tissue that came out about the Dallas Cowboys in that text loop last night. Am I right?
Yeah, man. We had a chain going during the game, and it people just don't understand it. It just doesn't take place during a football game. This goes on constantly throughout the week. Whether I start it or Thurman starts it, but we can always count on a smart, sarcastic comment or laugh coming out of Steve Tasker's mouth. Crickneck, who lives in the backwoods and
Georgia,
can't get any type of overnight mail service because he's in the woods somewhere and they're still using outhouses and whatnot. But it's just amazing, man, to just pick up the phone and shoot a text, and then you'll have 4 or 5 responses, and that'll go on for about 30 minutes or so, and if it happens to be during a game. We know that there's some festive atmospheres that are taking place. I know when I text yesterday during the game, Steve sends me back a picture of my wine glass from my retirement of my jersey, and then Thurman sends back a wine glass.
The same thing.
Obviously, both of them were full. I can imagine a few minutes later that they were empty.
Yeah. What'd you think of the game? What'd you think of the Bills' win at Dallas yesterday, Bruce?
Well, they executed, and make no mistake about it, that game was won on the offense and defensive line. They dominated the football game. They gave our quarterback a tremendous time to sit back there in the pocket and go from his first receiver to his second receiver, sometimes to his third receiver. That was outstanding play by the offensive line and the defensive line. They shut the run down, and they got after Dak. I was thoroughly impressed. I text Sean after the ball game was over, please relay this message to the O-line and D-line. You guys made us extremely proud yesterday.
A lot of fun. Hey, Bruce, we're looking forward to watching this tonight. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us here today. Have a great holiday weekend.
Go Hokies.
Yeah, same to you guys. Go Hokies. You see I got my T-shirt on. I had the Bills on yesterday. I've got Virginia Tech on right now. So
great. Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bruce
Thanks,
Smith, the Hall of
Happy
Famer,
holidays.
joining us on the line. A Football Life. Bruce Smith tonight, 10 p.m. on NFL Network.